From LALATE headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons LALATE.
It's a big afternoon of afternoons LALATE with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022 for April 15th, 2022. We have incredible great news about those three stimulus checks that have come out from the fourth stimulus package. Have you got them? They've become a law and they've been paid out. A $6,500 check, a $15,000 to $80,000 stimulus check, and an MSC check of about $24,000. We can go over each of these incredible checks that members of this channel have gotten in recent days and how you can get as well. Then we're going to go back to the Build Back Better Act that is likely to go for a vote this month. The looming recession is on the forefront across the board. We'll go over the latest details of why the economic data today signals that Build Back Better Act is likely to get passed better today than a month ago. Then we'll look at the changing developing details of SS 300, which is swap your benefits out from COLA to inflation with that new benchmark, because inflation is high, but inflation's coming down, and quickly coming down. How quickly it will be lowered by J-Powell and the Federal Reserve in view of the changing developments internationally. All the latest details on that front today as well. Then we look over to sixth stimulus, the biggest stimulus package of a generation caused by Vladimir Putin to solve the looming recession. The housing market is already likely in a recession today, and the auto industry as well. What could be next thereafter? Then we had breaking news late yesterday. I'll recap it right today as well. It's student loan debt forgiveness. It's seventh stimulus. And millions of student loan debts have now been forgiven completely. It's huge, and we'll have the latest details on that seventh stimulus update today. But from the shores of Santa Monica, California, for April 15th, 2022, great news. Three stimulus checks have landed. A student loan debt forgiven. Six stimulus right on the horizon. The price of oil and wheat and grain to be the battlefront for six stimulus this month. And then we wait for those Macron elections in France. That will be big news for the trifecta for that big six stimulus package. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, we have a lot of breaking news on this big April 15th and a lot of checks for you to get. Let's get to it. Let's get to the money, and let's get to the breaking news starting right here, right now, as Afternoons LA gets underway. And good afternoon, everybody. I hope you have a beautiful day for April 15th, 2022. The financial markets in New York are closed today because of Good Friday, but I'm here with the breaking news that impacts your wallet, because guess what? Checks can be gotten over this weekend, and those are four stimulus checks. Not one, but two, plus an MSC check. We're going to go over the latest details of them in today's jaw-dropping recording. A lot of breaking news. Plus, we'll be looking at that student loan debt forgiveness that was forgiven late last night going into Good Friday. It's huge news. It's seven stimulus. Then we'll be looking at what's going on with that SS 300. We'll have an indication of whether we're in recession or heading into recession. We'll have data about the housing market. We'll have data about the job market. And we'll have data about fifth stimulus, which impacts your benefits across the board. Plus, we'll be turning back to that sixth stimulus package, the oil, wheat, and grain prices. Because guess what? If you remember this channel, you saw that newsletter last night, and you saw the price of everything going higher. Wheat, grain, soybeans, and even oil? Yeah, if you haven't become a member, because tonight on Evenings LALATE and Prime Time, we're going to go over more of these checks in detail. The membership link at the top of the chat in the pinned comment can become a member as a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP to get that incredible newsletter Monday through Friday. You want to get it tonight for Good Friday, because remember, there is no newsletter on Saturday and Sundays. Become a member today and get those three checks, which are coming up later in this video. Check A, check B, and check C. Let's first start with the Build Back Better Act, the fourth stimulus recon, which will become a law. The legislators represent they're likely to call for a vote in the next few days in the month of April. There are 3 clusters of checks and 3 add-ons of checks, and those checks pay you a lot of money, upwards of $15,000 to $80,000. And those checks are huge. Let's look at them right now. Remember, 3 clusters, 3 add-ons, about $15,000 to $80,000. And the details of each check will be covered tonight in primetime on Evenings LA at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. That brand new show tonight. It's a 1-hour special broadcast. I look forward to seeing you then. But let's go over some of the checks in slight overview right now. Cluster number 1 has hazard pay, 1 more year of the earned income tax credit for my essential workers. I asked Crayola, is a sushi worker an essential worker? Then, is $4,000 of elder care important? It is. $4,000 of care for young children? Yes. The $550 check for the college students, the Pell Grant, got it in there. The check for nutrition, got it in there. The $3,600 for the CTC, 1 more year, got it in there. And then they got in there the $12,500 for the purchase of a new electric vehicle. The first add-on of checks is a little bit less than $25,000 for the purchase of your first home, whether it's here or in Crayolaville. You know, the real estate's going up there very quickly. Or whether it's, now if you're wondering, if you want to buy your first home in Decentraland, that doesn't qualify. It's a home you can actually live in, not a metaverse home. A little bit less than $25,000 given to the seller in your name during escrow from the federal government. Huge. In that second cluster of checks, we got checks for the real life, not for the metaverse. We got paid leave and home repairs. Paid leave is a lot of money, $4,000 to $6,000 a year. And then the home repairs, which are to weatherize your home. Hold up, pens up, exam is over. No, surprise. That's law. Yes, you heard me right. That is law. The President of the United States had that home weatherizing grant check in second cluster. And he said, you know what, I'm not going to wait around any longer. I'm going to take it out and make it law. And he did. March 31st, 2022. So that is our check A of check A, B, and C. It is $6,500. And it was made law by the President of the United States by executive authority. Remember, you can have a law by vote of Congress or by executive action. So here you go. Made law on March 31st, 2022 by Joseph Biden. Now, check B was also made law by the President of the United States just days earlier on March 4th. It's a $15,000 to $80,000 stimulus check. Yes, there's a $6,500 for stimulus check that's now law and has gone out. Have you got it? Stay with me. I'm going to show you how to get it later in this recording. And then check B, a $15,000 to $80,000 for stimulus check has now gone out and been law. Have you gotten that as well? If you haven't, don't worry, because I'm going to show you how to get that check in just a second. Let's go back into that second cluster. So we have that paid leave in there. That is still staying in there, huge, $46,000 a year. And then let's go to the second add-on of checks. It's big. It's a little bit less than $250 billion of free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. Great. Let's go to that third cluster of checks. Farmers checks, independent contractors checks, free internet for all checks, and then seniors checks. Seniors getting lots of checks. They are getting hearing checks, vision checks, dental checks, lowering the eligibility age of Medicare checks from 65 to 55. And the Medicaid gap fix, they'll provide a workaround plan to ensure that uninsured people in those 12 Republican holdout states get insurance, which is part of the course when we're talking about adding checks to the Build Back Better Act. If the other checks that the senators represent, they would add in there. Our IRS MSC checks. These are checks that sent out from IRS. They're in addition to the $15,000 to $80,000 of stimulus checks that are already in Build Back Better Act. And they're in addition to those 2 checks from 4 stimulus that are already law, check A and B, which I'm going to go over later in this recording. So who gets these MSC checks in Build Back Better? Let's go over the details. Legislators represent that if you got a third, you would get the fourth. So, single individual, $75,000 less, get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, get it. Double it. Family of 4, quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, veterans benefits, you get as well. It's not income. It's not taxable. And on Evenings LA tonight in prime time, I look forward to seeing you in that big broadcast. We're going to go over more details tonight about these MSC checks. But what's important to know when you're looking at the Build Back Better MSC checks is the following. First, they're not law yet, number one. And number two, how much do they propose to pay you? They propose to pay you on top line $7,000 total. 6 months of checks, $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter. Good. But that is in addition to the third stimulus MSE checks, which are now law, and they pay you nearly 300% higher, more money. Let's look at that check. See, it's coming up in just a second. Yes, that is an MSE check. Yes, it became law in 2021. Yes, it is a lot of money. And the average view of those channels is getting $2,000 a month over 12 months. Whoa. How do you get that check? It's coming up in just a second. Now, let's go back into the SS300, which is huge, because it tees up the economic data we have today that impacts that and SS300, a lot of details you need to know. When Joe Biden ran for president of the United States, and then when he became president-elect, he put in his JoeBiden.com presidential platform the indication that he would swap your COLA benchmark for inflation. What does that mean? Every year, your benefits are reassessed based upon a benchmark. The current benchmark is COLA. It doesn't move. But inflation is red hot. Yours truly, I predicted last summer that inflation would come in at 8% in December. Federal Reserve said no, it's going to be 1 to 2% and temporary, transitory. I said no, it's going to be hotter than that and not temporary. Fed got it very wrong. It was much hotter than they predicted, and it was not temporary. 8% in December, 8% in January, 8% in February. And with that, Jay Powell's job is to reduce inflation by raising interest rates. But what has happened with Jay Powell in that front today, the last few days, and the last month? Remember, the way to battle inflation is to raise interest rates. How do you raise interest rates? The Federal Reserve has those meetings once per month, every month, called the FOMC meeting. And there's two possibilities, a half basis point increase or a quarter. Quarter is weaker, half is stronger. Jay Powell in the month of February said he was going to do a quarter indefinitely until that brings down inflation. Then, as soon as that March meeting was over, he changed course, saying, no, we're likely to do half basis. Now we have indication that there may be half basis, not just for the rest of this year, but into next year. Now, what does that mean for your benefits? It means that the importance of swapping that COLA for inflation right today when inflation is tracking really hot. If we made the swap today at 8%, that would lock in $200 more per month, not just this month, not just this year, but a lifetime. Because once your benefits go up, they never go down. That's how it works. Then if inflation tracks at 4% later this year, then your benefits will go up another $100, SS300. But what's changing today? What's changed this week? What has changed this month? What has changed this last 24 hours and this week has been the Federal Reserve indicating that it's likely to be much more aggressive on those interest rate spikes to bring down inflation. That's their statements. What's the reality, which I'm going to give my analysis right now? Ain't going to work. In my opinion, and I'm not alone, a lot of Wall Street analysts are subscribing to my thoughts in recent days, more every single day, that the Federal Reserve does not have the tools. The Federal Reserve does not have the tools by raising interest rates to bring down inflation. Meaning that inflation is going to still stay high, and if Joe makes that swap from cola to inflation today, you're so good. Now, what about later this year? I don't think at all that Jay Powell has the tools to bring down inflation to 1.9%. But wait a second, 1.9%, you just said LA is going to be 4% later this year. Yeah, Jay Powell changed in March, said I want to get down to 1.9%. Laugh right here, because I don't think he can do it. I don't think he can get inflation down to 1.9%. If it was 1.9%, that's just $40 more per month for your benefits. That's why you want Joe to make that swap today, when inflation is tracking hotter. So is inflation tracking hotter? Is inflation 8% right today on April 15th, 2022? Is it lower, or is it a little bit higher than 8%? Let's go over the economic data that came in the last few hours and days. The most recent is the Consumer Price Index number. And that Consumer Price Index number is a year-to-year date number, so it compares the month of March 2022 to the month of March 2021. It also compares the month of March to February. So far, I've been absolutely 100% on the mark on all these inflationary projections. I projected 8% last year for December and January, and then February. I said that March is likely a little bit hotter, higher. Why did I say that? Because the 10-year Treasury note and the bond traders are trading up the notes, thinking that the interest rates are actually hot, that the inflation is actually higher. So where did the data come in this week? The Consumer Price Index revealed that the inflation rate did go up between February and March. Not a lot, less than a half percentage point. Wall Street looking for half percentage point. It came in a third of percentage point hotter. So it's almost the same, but it's a little bit higher. Now, what about April? In my opinion, the April number is likely to be just as high, if not a little bit higher. Why? Because when you look at the number that was released in the CPI this week, it showed why certain numbers were going up since February to March. And so if you think to yourself, is the situation worse in April than it was in February with those items? Then you probably have the answer as well. Let's look at the items in the month of February to March that took the big rise up, and then think to ourselves, is it likely that they're higher in April? In the month of February to March, food prices went up 1%. Do you think that food prices have gone up since the month of March? I think they have. Then, when we look at energy prices, they went up 11% between February and March. Have they gone up then since? Well, absolutely. Now, remember when we talk about energy prices, we're talking about gasoline. The gasoline that was delivered in the month of March was not bought in the month of March. Spot is potentially the month of February, January. So the month of the gasoline that's being delivered in April was not bought in April. It's still, or at least not bought by you, bought by the distributors, was bought maybe 30 to 60 days ahead of time. But if you look at the price of Brent crude and gasoline, it's actually tracking higher now than it was in March. So I think that we're likely at the higher interest rate, highest inflation rate right now. Now let's look at that year-to-date number, by the way. The food rose 9% year-to-date, and the energy rose 32% year-to-date. Ouch. Overall, the CPI number was 8.8%. So good news, I think, really, on that SS300. If Joe Biden makes that swap and coded inflation right today, you're good. Because I think we really are at 8%, maybe 8.25%. Maybe we're at 7.9, but I absolutely do not believe we're at 6% or anything like 7%. I think we're really almost the same or actually higher than 8%. That's $200 more per month. Then, how long are we good with this? We're likely good for this till that next FOMC meeting when that half basis point increase comes in. Now, what about December? Is Jay Powell going to get that inflation rate down to 1.9%? Absolutely not. He's going to get it down to 4%. It's going to die out. It may not get down to 4%. Why? You'll see later in this video, because there is 3 supply chain disruptions right now. And those supply chain disruptions are causing inflation prices to go higher. And I'll have more about this tonight on LALATE, but Jay Powell has nothing to do. He has no tools in his toolbox to fix supply chain disruption. And that's what's keeping inflation hot. That means that I think that your benefits could track in another $100 later this year if Joe makes that swap from coded inflation. Now let's go back to the Build Back Better Act, because now this gets very interesting. Is the economic data good? Is the economic data poor? Is the economy strong? Is the economy weak? As we look at the potential vote for Build Back Better Act, what do we need to know about the situation on the U.S. economy? Well, the situation is very clear that in the month of April so far, the economic data has been generally misses or weaker data than predicted. The non-farm payroll data released early this week was a miss by nearly 60,000 jobs created in the month of March. Missed the number. The growth in national product, which shows how much this economy is growing. And remember, that's an important number, GDP, because that's the recessionary number. In a recession, the number goes to 0 or negative. Did it shrink? It did shrink. Wall Street expecting 7.1% growth. It went to 6.9% growth. Now they're looking at 4.2% growth. And I got to tell you, I think it's going to be 1% growth by the end of the year. So that is another indication. Then, housing industry, absolutely horrible. 4 consecutive months of down housing starts, meaning the number of houses sold slumped 4 consecutive months. Mortgage rates, a miss as well. Mortgage rates, the highest levels of the generation, 5% across the board. So of all this data, the only data that was good, really good, was the unemployment numbers. Lowest unemployment numbers for new unemployment claims last Thursday since the 1960s. And then the continuing unemployment claims, huge. It was only 1.9 million, 1.7 million compared to a year ago, 18 million. So collectively, the data is misses economically, and that's good news for Build Back Better, which the legislators represent. They're going to call for a vote in the next 30 days. Wow. Now, what's important for you to know is that there's a lot of money. And there are big checks available for you to get today. And if you're new to this channel, what I do on this channel is I get people checks as soon as they become a law. I don't sit around and wait for things to become a law. If something is law, I immediately announce them. There was a check that became a law on March 31st, a $6,500 check. If you're new to this channel, let me tell you what happened. The President of the United States did not have a press briefing about it. It was not, rolled out. It was not on broadcast media. It was not on print media. And I found it, the $6,500 check, and cross-checked my notes. And I said, wow, that is the check from the second stimulus, from the second cluster of the fourth stimulus recon. He took it out. It became law. The confirmation came from the White House not 2, but 3 times that March 31st. I immediately featured in the membership newsletter that night, and viewers have gotten it. Then a $15,000 to $80,000 check has become a law. This, ironically, was name checked by the president on the 4th as well, on March 4th. So I immediately featured in the newsletter that night. Then the $2,400 MSC checks was really the doing of the viewers of this channel. They've made that reality happen. I'll explain to you how you get these big checks in the second half of this video. First, a $6,500 home weatherizing grant check has become a law, and it is now paid out. I'm going to show you how to get the $6,500 stimulus check after the commercial break. A $15,000 to $80,000 fourth stimulus check has also become a law, and viewers have gotten this check. Many have gotten it around $66,000 to $80,000. And then check C, an MSC check of about $24,000 over 12 months. Many viewers getting $45,000. Some viewers getting $150,000 has paid out. How do you get these big checks? They're coming up in the second half of this recording. Then we have that big breaking news as student loan debt has now been forgiven. For millions of Americans, it's a big, shocking news development. It was first unearthed and revealed on Evenings LALATE for April 14th, 2022. But today, I go over more about the details of it in the second half of this video. We'll be looking back to 6 stimulus. As we're trying to deal with recession and the problems about wheat, grain, and corn, I'll be looking at what those commodities are doing right now as we go into the weekend. They're not doing well. You know it's an Easter weekend. That means a lot of people potentially on the road driving. What is the price of gasoline looking for you this weekend? I'll have the latest on that front as well. We got a lot coming up, a lot of fun, and then we look forward and look to the future as this channel approaches its 2-year anniversary in just a few days, April 25th. I'll give you a preview of what's in store, and we'll look back at what we've learned about ourselves and finances and money over the last 2 years. That's coming up later in this video, so stay with me. But first, here's a little bit about the members community page. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds as a Big Afternoons broadcast for April 15th, 2022 continues. See you back in 60 seconds as the excitement continues, the big money continues to land, and the breaking news about all the economics you need to know continues to come on in. It's a big day, and all the data continues in just 60 seconds on Afternoons.
If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE.
And the excitement continues on a Big Afternoons for April 15th, 2022. There's a lot of breaking news today, and I'm very excited for you as not 1, not 2, but 3 stimulus checks have now landed. The first one is a 4 stimulus check, $6,500. The second is a 4 stimulus check, $15,000 to $80,000. And the third is an MSC check. We're going to go over the latest details on how you get those big checks and how you should get them this weekend, as we have a big Easter weekend, but you still have the likelihood to get those big checks because their applications are open this weekend. I want to go over the importance of becoming a member. I hope you became a member during the commercial break. Get that incredible newsletter Monday through Friday. It's Easter Friday. It is Good Friday, and you want to get that newsletter today because remember, there is no newsletter on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday. So become a member today so you get that incredible newsletter, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll be going over that breaking, developing details of student loan debt now forgiven. Huge. It's absolutely huge. That student loan debt is incredible. And whose debt was forgiven? All the latest details in this big second half. Then we'll be looking at the recessionary concerns that seize up 6 stimulus package. It's oil, wheat, and grain. And inflation is likely to track higher because of supply chain disruption. What do we know about what's happening in China and that sub-variant of Omicron surging out of control? All the latest details from China today. It's a big broadcast. And I got to tell you, this is one of the biggest economic stories you're going to see for the second half of 2022. It's China and that Omicron sub-variant and supply chain. And with that, let's go right into the breaking news today. The huge news is that 1, 2, 3 stimulus checks have now landed. And some people used to say, is 4 stimulus checks going to become a law? They have. Stimulus checks have gone out? They have. Viewers have gotten it? They have. These are 4 stimulus checks, A and B. And they're absolutely incredible. Across the sheets, 3 checks, A, B, and C, there's a check for every view of this channel. You qualify for either A, B, or C, or all of the above. And we're going to go over each of these checks one at a time. First, Joseph Biden took check A and then check B out of the 4 stimulus recon, made them law by executive action. Check C was made law by the American Rescue Plan, Congress, in early 2021. So let's look at all those 3 checks right now. A $6,500 check became law on March 31st. That is the homeowner's weatherizing grant check. Then a $15,000 to $80,000 check became law on March 4th. That is the homeowner's grant. And then an MSC check of $24,000 became law in 2021. Let's go over each of the checks, starting with check A. Check A. It's a 4 stimulus check that became law that pays out to viewers of this channel. The average payout is a lot of money, but it's a minimum $6,500. In some states, it's upwards of $12,000. Number 1, what is the income qualification? Same as a 3rd stimulus check. Single individual, $75,000 less, you can get it. Married couple, $150,000 or less, you can get it. Next. If you're on benefits, can you get it? Absolutely. SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits. Finally, what's the last eligibility criterion? You own your own home. This is the homeowner's weatherizing grant check. So do not worry about the words weatherizing and don't worry about the words home. What type of weatherizing, what type of home? Just apply. So how do you apply? You want to become a member. Become a member. The link's at the top of the chat and the pinned comment. Become a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP member. Then get the newsletter delivered to you Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alert system. You open that membership newsletter, go right in there, and the first few lines is the oil, wheat, and grain prices today, and then right after that is check A. You click the link, it sends you into the national website, then you choose your state, like Alabama. Then you choose the weatherizing grant. So Alabama weatherizing grant, and then apply. Very simple, and viewers have got to that check. Congratulations. Let's go to the next check. It's check B. It looks like check A, but slightly different. First is a lot more money. It's $15,000 to $80,000, with many viewers tracking $66,000 to $80,000. It's a 4 stimulus check again, law, President made a law by taking out of the Build Back Better Act. And that incredible check is huge money. The eligibility is just like a 3rd stimulus check as well. Single individual, $75,000 less, you can get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you can get it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, veterans benefits, you can get it as well. It's called the homeowner's grant check. And with that, you also go into the membership newsletter. It's right under check A. And you look for that and you click the link. Now, in this case, it's a different website. It sends you to a national website. You're going to look at a map, much like this map. You'll click your respective state, let's say Arkansas, and then you click the link and it sends you into the Arkansas site. And then you apply in Arkansas, and then you get funded. Once you get the statement from the website that you're approved, you get it funded within about 1 week. It's huge. And there you are. That is check B. Now, let's look at check A, and B so far. Homeowner and homeowner. Homeowners can get check A, B, and C all together, and then renters can get check C by itself. Again, homeowners can get A, B, and C, and renters can get check C. Among all the viewership of this channel, if you're either a homeowner or renter, I got a check for you. So let's go into check C. It's very different. First, it's a monthly stimulus check. It's an MSC check. Second, it's on third stimulus. It's not from fourth stimulus. Third, it was not taken out third stimulus. It was actually in third stimulus. That third stimulus will allocate lots of money, and the money is still being used, is still being sent out. The viewership of the channel has gone on average 45,000, but in recent days, they have gotten $2,000 a month over 12 months. That is $24,000. That is a lot more money than the Build Back Better Act's MSC checks. Eligibility is just like A and B. 75,000 less, single individual, married couple, 150,000 less. And what is this money for? It's for rent, utilities, and more. You do not have to be behind on your bills, generally. So let's go over the success stories that viewers have gotten for these sums of money. Here you go. Let's look at the rent. Wow. Incredible. 27,000, 20,000 for Nisi. Then the utilities. Incredible. Mark's brother-in-law got 15,000 after this graphic was made. Let's look at the combos. There you go. Incredible. Mark was at 32,000. Then he went back and got another item, brought him to 50,000. Then he went to 100,000. Then he got check B. He's at 166,000. Here's Lorraine. She was at 105. Now she's at $120,000. So how do you get check C? Check C is not a website. You don't have to own a computer. You don't have to have a cell phone. All you have to have is a basic rotary telephone. And you're going to pick up the phone and call to get those checks. So let's go over where you call and what you do. What's important to understand is the following. You're going to reach out to a series of places. Your city hall, your city housing authority. Your county hall, your county housing authority. And your state hall and your state housing authority. The key words you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, utility or mortgage assistance because of COVID. Now, let's stop the graphic right there. Notice everyone's using a telephone. That's all you need. All you need is a telephone. Number two, you don't say different words that I haven't mentioned in this video. So you don't say MSC. You don't say stimulus check. You don't say check C. You just say the words in this video. Don't add anything into the equation. Whatever I say in the video, you do exactly like I say it. Then, reach out to 6 places. Well, I just showed you 6 places, but guess what? If you're a member, you're going to open that membership newsletter because there's going to be 15 to 20 places in there. Get multiple applications filed to multiple rounds, and then rely on that membership newsletter because guess what? They got the nonprofits in there. The nonprofits pay for other sums of money. Get those applications on file by picking up the phone and getting these big sums of money. You can do it. $40,000, $45,000 is what viewers on average have gotten from this big MSC. Do it right today, and I'm very excited for you. You can rock and roll. You can get these big sums of money. Get them today. You deserve it. So how do you become a member? Go to the top of the channel and become a member. Purple Hawk or under the video's description. Click where it says join. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Become a member. Get that incredible newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern, via the YouTube alert system. Get that newsletter delivered to you because guess what? That has all the details of there in that check A, B, and C. Let me add something in there which is important to understand because I assumed everyone knew this, but I've got a few questions about the last 24 hours. First, you also have to subscribe. I just assumed people were subscribing. Don't become a member and not subscribe also. You have to become a member and subscribe. Next, when you go to the front of this channel, make sure you hit the bell button so that you have all notifications turned to all on. You want to become a member because when you become a member, you get all these incredible sums of money as soon as they become law. But you also want to ensure that you have all notifications turned on. So go to the front of this channel, you'll see a little bell, click the bell and set it to all, not preferred. Then, when you receive those YouTube alerts throughout the day, when a new video comes live, you know your alerts are working. They're sent via YouTube, via the youtube.com platform. The 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time YouTube alert, Monday through Friday. You look at that and it's going to say newsletter. It's literally going to say in the body of it, newsletter. It's going to have an image that says newsletter. That's the newsletter right there. Click it. It'll send you into the complete newsletter for that day. Remember, the YouTube alerts is different than the LALATE alerts. Make sure you sign up for those YouTube alerts and make sure you become a member. Also, remember to stay a member, because when checks become law, they don't sit around indefinitely. And so you don't want your membership to lapse a minute or a day, because you could lose the opportunity to get thousands and thousands of dollars of checks. So don't let it lapse. Imagine the people who let their membership lapse after March 4th and lived in the state of New York. In the state of New York, for example, they had the $80,000 check on March 4th. I immediately announced that it became law on March 4th. I announced on March 4th. And within about 3 days, it ran out of money. And let's say you came around by March 20th and became a member. The money was gone. So that's why you don't want your membership to lapse, because when checks become a law, that minute I immediately feature them for the membership of this channel. Let's go into the exciting details of that student loan debt. Student loan debt has now been forgiven by the President of the United States in great magnitude overnight. It was announced on this channel during prime time on Evenings LA for April 14th, 2022, yesterday. And what happened? A whole blanket of student loan debt is getting forgiven permanently. Let's go over where we are today for April 15th, 2022. First, we had seen no less than 2 months ago that student loan debts were forgiven for people who became disabled after graduation. Then, student loan debts were forgiven for people who went to work in the nonprofit or public sector after graduation. Third, then we had the President of the United States saying that repayment student loan debts are no longer due starting in May 2nd. We're rolling over the deadline to September. There's still a moratorium. And then on April 2nd, the huge news, which was that if your student loan debts are in default, they will be put back to good standing. And finally, the April 14th news, which is if you got student loan debts from a university and that debt was the result of fraud by the university against you, your debts are 100% forgiven. This is a big one, because this was the platform upon which Elizabeth Warren campaigned for student loan debts to be forgiven. She specifically used this as an example of why student loans need to be forgiven. When the university committed a fraud against the student to obtain the student loan debt, the federal government on April 14th said, we're now forgiving those debts completely. Huge news across the board. Let's look at six stimulus. Six stimulus is that trifecta that the President of the United States, Germany, and France to get off of those Russian products. It started with week one of the invasion of Ukraine by Vladimir Putin. And your Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, reached out to Germany and France, saying, get off of those Russian products. Initially, Germany said no. Then the White House and Blinken pushed back stronger, said you need to morally get off of those products. They said yes. But then things changed very quickly, because in the last 7 days, Germany said, no, we're going to stay on those Russian products. So what's the breaking news today? First, is that trifecta of Germany, France, and the United States really tight? At the moment, it doesn't look that it may be tight. Why? First, as to France, we have the situation that its president, we are waiting for his re-election to happen last Sunday. He did not get re-elected. It's Emmanuel Macron, and now he's in a runoff for late April. His re-election is important for the trifecta as a team to get six stimulus done on an international level. Then, breaking news out of Germany saying, no, we're going to stay back on those Russian products. Wow, that's a shocker. But then, one of the biggest German banks, Deutsche Bank, came out and said, Germany must have a stimulus package or their economy is going into recession. Oh boy, that's exactly what I've been telling you. Then we have the White House that has not mentioned Germany or France in recent days and is trying to do things without them. So as to the allegiance for six stimulus, I don't know. I really don't know. All I worry about is us here domestically. The White House can do this without Germany or France. So what has the White House tried to do, and what has the White House tried not to do? It's tried to battle the situation on oil, but not tried to do anything with the wheat and grain. Let's do the wheat and grain first today. This is easy. The price of wheat is at an all-time high of nearly a generation. If you remember this channel, it's featured on the newsletter every day. If you looked at the newsletter for Thursday, the price of wheat this week, folks, has gone up an enormous amount. And that was after it was at a 10-year high. Same thing for corn. This is uncontrollable. This is unsustainable. This is not affordable. You can't afford the price of wheat at this levels, or we go into recession. Is the White House doing anything on this front? Absolutely nothing. This is where Janet Yellen absolutely should be reprimanded. Hasn't done anything to battle the price of commodities domestically in the United States to get them lower or internationally. Then, as we turn to the situation in oil, I gotta laugh. Why am I laughing? Because I told you so. I told you so. The President of the United States 2 weeks ago announced that he's releasing 1 million barrels of the strategic reserves for the United States government, oil the United States government owns, to release at 1 million barrels a day to gain the price of gasoline down. I said, good, it ain't going to work. I said that day one, it ain't going to work. It's now 2 weeks later. What's happened? Price of gasoline is actually higher than before he made the announcement. Yeah. So when he made the announcement, I think the price of gasoline was 107 a barrel, international Brent crude. Yesterday night, it was 108, tracking back to 109. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's simple logistics. Why? There's 3 million barrels of gasoline from Vladimir Putin no longer available in the world economy because they've been embargoed. We're saying we're not going to buy it. 3 million barrels a day from Russia. Pretty simple. How much have we replaced it with? 1.5 million. We haven't even got to the 50%. First, the White House did a certain number of barrels, about 1 million barrels per day from the strategic reserves, and then it got an alliance of countries to release more gasoline, and that has brought us about another 500,000 barrels. It's 1.5. It doesn't fit. It doesn't work. Then, the next part of what's going on with six stimulus is the recessionary concerns. Do we have a recession coming, or are we in a recession already? In my opinion, I'm going to see more about this on Evenings LA tonight, is that we already are in a recession for at least two parts of the U.S. economy, two industries, housing and auto. Auto sales are way down. They're way down, and they're going to go worse. Why? Conductor chips are not available, number one. Number two, the products that make the cars are not available, number three. We have supply chain disruption in Ukraine. We have supply chain disruption in China. A lot of the parts that go into the cars come from China. And, for example, the seat belts that go into your cars made by the U.S. auto manufacturers that are shipped in Europe, U.S. auto manufacturers make their cars in Europe differently than they make them here for us. The seat belts come from Ukraine. They don't have those seat belts. So supply chain disruption, demand down. Auto sales are way down already. So for the 2022. So I think it's already a recession. Then when we look at housing starts, 4 months down, it's going to get worse because we're coming out the peak season. This is the peak season for housing, and it's down. And the mortgage rate is absolutely out of control. It's 5%. So this is not sustainable. What do I think is going to happen? I think the rest of the U.S. economy will be going into recession by the end of the year. We'll have flat or negative GDP, which will be negative growth, and then we're into a full recession by 2023 for 2 years. I think that's really where we're headed. And that is why, as a family, as an economy, we need to be on top of everything. It's days like this that when there's a lot of uncertainty, you got to take cash on the cob. You know, it's back in those early days of April 25th, 2020, when this channel launched. And people were doing the EIDL loans, and they wondered, how much of a loan should I take? I was getting people 150,000, and I said, well, wait a second. If it goes over 25,000, you have to have it collateralized. Do you really need that money? They said, no, I don't really need the money. And so they chose not to get the money. What did we learn from that experience? This is very important, folks. At the time, I said, if you're getting an EIDL loan of more than 25,000, it has to be collateralized. So don't do it more than 25 if you don't need it, because then it's collateralized. Some viewers didn't think it through. They didn't think it through. They said, I don't like collateralized. I don't want to do it. I don't want it. And no less than a month went on. And what happened? By April 2020, they realized the pandemic was not a 1 month walk in the park. It was going to be longer than 1 month, this COVID thing. And then they came back and said, I need to have more money for that EIDL loan. What do I do to raise it back up? Oh boy. To raise the EIDL loan back up after you got approved and signed off was absolutely a difficult endeavor. Very difficult. Took many, many months. Some viewers may have never gotten it. It was very, very difficult. The landscape was that they were offered 200,000. They didn't want it. They took 18,000, and then 2 months later, or a month later, they said, "You know what? I think I want more money. Let me go back." No, no, no. It's very hard now. That is why you need to really track things out. You really have to think ahead in life. And no one knows what's going to go on with COVID, but you certainly knew there was a 50-50 chance that maybe COVID was going to go longer than March 2020. And if it went longer than March 2020, do you need more money? Well, then just take the money. What I was telling the viewers at the time was, you can always take more money and give it back because there's no early repayment penalty. You just give the money back. Why am I going over this? Because this is what's important. You need to understand the trajectory of where things are. So when I show you check A, B, and C, and you're like, you know what, I'll just wait for Build Back Better Act to become law. Why? Do you know that's going to become law? Do you know what day it's going to become law? Do you know that's how it's going to become law? Do you know all the provisions are going to stay in Build Back Better Act? Don't do that to yourself. If you have the eligibility to get A, B, and C, get it right today. Don't say, I'm going to wait for something else, because that something else may not happen the way you think it's going to happen. Just like those viewers who said, you know what, I don't think I want more of this EIDL loan. I'm going to give it back. They didn't think it through. They didn't think out of the possibility. And they didn't realize or listen carefully when I said, just take more if you want it, and then you can give it back. If you give it back, then it doesn't become collateralized. They took too little, and then 30 days later, they needed more money, and they couldn't get it that easy. It's a case for A, B, and C. In recent days, some viewers say, when are they sending out the other checks from forced stimulus for everyone else? I gotta say, what everyone else? What everyone else? Folks, you can say that line, but don't play dumb with me, because the line means absolutely no sense. It's complete nonsense. What everyone else? You're either a renter or a homeowner. Is there anything in forced stimulus Build Back Better Act for homeless people? There really isn't. Really isn't. So either you rent or you own. Okay, so is there anything in there other than that you can get in addition to A, B, and C? Absolutely. Absolutely. But why, as a renter or an owner or a homeowner, would you not get A and B and C? Why would you not do it? It makes absolutely no sense. Now, get those and get what's in forced stimulus with Build Back Better Act? Absolutely. That's great news. That's what you should do. But you shouldn't sit back and say, you know what? When are the other checks for everyone else? I'm busy eating my donut, and I'm booking my airline ticket to Crayollaville, and I'm buying reoccurring lobster shorts. I'm going down the zucchini boat bridge to a Doja Cat song. You know, when is forced stimulus when we come? Don't do that. That is exactly what we say not to do. That is what we call calendar cutting. That's what we call as calendar calling. You're basically calendaring event in that may not calendar in. What day is the vote? Don't ask that. What day are they sending? What day are they doing the rest of the checks for everyone else? Don't ask that. Because you are this person. You do qualify for A, B, and C. If you make the effort, you can get those checks. What we learned on this channel from day one is that when there's efforts made, you can get those big checks. In the last 24 hours, we have big success stories for people who've gotten big checks because they made the effort. So I want you to make that effort as well. Don't forget to become a member, because guess what? When checks become law, they're featured in the membership newsletter. And you never know when a new check will become a law. I believe Check A became law on a Friday night, so don't miss it. Become a member. Get that incredible newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, via the YouTube alerts. Meantime, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so that all notifications are on. And then make sure you join me for Evenings LA in prime time tonight at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, because it's a big show for April 15th. Stay informed, stay focused. Have a beautiful day. I'll see you tonight on Evenings LA. Stay informed, stay focused, and stay with LA for more.